All right, welcome everyone, and we are live. My name is Harsh. You're watching Esports and Information. Let us react to the headlines for today. What does the world have for us? Okay, so there is a state-funded school, a state-funded educational institution right by my house, and if you see, if in the audio you hear some of the announcements going on, so it is from that school. So never mind, never mind. Let's see what do we have today for us. Hmm, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. So today we start up with good news, somewhat of an infrastructure news. So now the railways has built a bridge named Pamban Bridge. Okay. So if you remember, if you know the place that is called Rameshwaram, Rameshwaram is a cultural and spiritual center for the pagans of this land. They go over there, and as the name signifies, the name Rameshwaram, so that it has some of the significance dealing with the legendary king that is Rama. And yeah, so the railways has built a bridge over there. Okay, so it is nation's first vertical lift railway sea bridge. Okay, new Pambam Bridge connecting Rameswaram Island to the mainland Bharat. Okay, yes. So we have a new bridge. So you'll have a direct railway connection to Rameshwaram. Earlier, people who used to visit this cultural and spiritual center, they had to travel by, I would say, a ferry. But now we have a train, so people can directly reach Rameshwaram through trains. They wouldn't have to get, another mode of transport to reach the island. Okay. So let's see what are some benefits. The benefits are high clearance, enabling larger ships to pass underneath. Obviously, whenever you build a bridge, you imagine this as a traffic signal. Okay, so whenever you're standing in a traffic signal, you are requested to stop and let the other side pass. But situation is slightly different when you are traveling through waters, and so it has this facility of vertical lift, so it can also lift itself electronically, and let other ships pass, and even larger ships can pass underneath it because it has a higher clearance, ensuring durability with modern engineering techniques, modernizing transportation and enriching connectivity, fostering pathways to economic development. Yes, now since there is a direct rail link with this center, obviously we can see that there will be an increase in footfall at this place. An increase in footfall at that place means an increasing economic activity. An increasing economic activity yields to building of capital. So let's see how does Rameshwaram benefit from this construction of railway bridge. And like I have said in many of my previous live streams as well, construction of infrastructure must never be treated as a political gamble. Infrastructure is like bare minimum needed if you aspire to see yourself as a developed country. And you know so yes, no angle of politics should be taken over here. It's just some infrastructure that a country is building. And it also has some cultural significance, because now that you have a railway link, there is it is you know it is more included in the mainland, I would say. Since it was an island, Rameshwaram was an island, it was far away from the mainland, so there was this thing, that it is not in the mainland. But now with the introduction of this bridge, it is connected, very well connected to railways. Okay. Speaking of Rameshwaram, now we come on to Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka has signed an MOU, with the official creditors committee, and so there was this MOU that was signed between two parties. One party is Official Creditors Committee, another one is Sri Lanka, the government of Sri Lanka, of course. Okay, so this Official Creditors Committee is the committee. Yeah, it's a committee. Put together by Bharat to look into the economic affairs of Sri Lanka, because there is this increasing tendency. If you see, okay, if you see, observe this phenomenon all across the world, countries who do not support, let's say, countries who do not support the Russian cause. So the United States and the West will lure that country to their side by promising them developmental loans, by promising them a whole lot of money, a whole lot of capital to pump into their countries. The same is being done between Bharat and China as well. Countries that are miffed, I would not exactly use the word miffed, but the countries that are moving away from Bharat, and so China is always ready to lure them in with some economic packages. And yeah, so it's very important for us to appear and actually help our next door neighbors. So that is why we also have a policy called neighborhood first, but it definitely can use some of the changes. Okay, Bharat is steadfast in its commitment to Sri Lanka's growth and prosperity, demonstrated by the unprecedented assistance of USD 4 billion, as well as role played by Bharat as the co-chair of OCC. Yep. So we have pumped somewhere close to $4 billion in inside Sri Lanka, developing their infrastructure, helping them, uh, you know, helping them to lift their economy. So let's see what comes out of this. So that I would say Sri Lanka has more cultural proximity towards us compared to any other country, because like I said, it is a next door neighbor. It has a cultural significance. We have had this conflicts with Sri Lanka in the past, but you know, past is the past. No matter how hard you try, you can't change it. So, yep, you need to put all those things behind, because China is waiting on the other side to lure all those countries who move away from Bharat. Okay, and all those countries, let's say, for example, countries such as Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and even countries of Southeast Asia, such as Indonesia, Thailand, all these countries that have more cultural proximity to us, if they, let's say, if they move away from us and they join the Chinese camp, it would be a a foreign policy blunder for us. So we need to keep our close land neighbors very close to us, because in a way, yes, it helps us raise our own standards. Next up, what do we have next? Hmm. Next up is, yes, three terrorists have been gunned down in the Doda district in Jammu and Kashmir. Uh, you can see, as in where the Amarnath Yatra is approaching close, you'll see an increase in infiltration. You'll see an increase in, uh, you know, radical Islamists picking up guns, against the armed forces of Bharat, and they'll try to disrupt the tranquility and peace in the valley. So yeah, so there are three terrorists who have been killed in the Doda district. Yep. Again, it is the armed forces of Bharat. They are taking up, like, this is a passive reaction. Okay, this has been the policy of the army all across, that you'll always wait for something to happen, and then you retaliate. You never preempt their actions, because you are too worried about this utopian ideas of absolute human rights. So yeah, three terrorists have been gunned down, and they never seem to understand that you cannot compete against the third largest armed force in the entire world. But yeah, their twisted ideas about being a martyr. Yep. Next up is the national body for weather forecast, that is IMD, National Meteorological Department. It has said that heavy to very heavy rainfall is very likely along the west peninsular coast during the next 3 to 4 days and over northeast India from 27th to 30th of June. Okay, yes, all along the peninsular coast, along the Western Ghats, obviously in the rainfall area, not the rain shadow area. So yes, from 27th to the 30th of June, it has predicted that there will be heavy to very heavy rainfall. So keep your umbrellas and raincoats ready, but also keep that, uh, say, some hot snacks, some tea if you enjoy in this weather. Keep it ready. Take care of yourselves because this is the season also that you know um, it's a breeding season for rodents. When I say rodents, I mean mosquitoes and all the ants and everything. So this is supposed to be a breeding season because they initially they were in this hibernation inside their holes, but now with rain coming in and the water that seeps to the ground, so it disturbs them. It disturbs their hibernation, and they're forced to come out and when they come out they procreate, and when they procreate they produce more numbers of themselves, and when they produce more numbers of themselves they spread a lot of disease. So yes, enjoy the rains but be a little bit mindful about diseases and precautions. Next up is the state of Maharashtra. Chief Minister Eknath Shinde says that all inclusive budget will be presented in the state assembly tomorrow that will benefit youth, farmers, women, and even the elderly. Yes, for the people who don't know, we follow a two-pronged democratic model. Whatever procedures, whatever the democratic procedures that we follow at the central level, we also follow at the state level as well. So just like the center, each state also has its own state budget. The chief minister of Maharashtra is going to be presenting the state budget today. Okay, and he has given assurances that this budget will benefit all youth, farmers, women, even the elderly. It's a typical politician thing. Before announcing it, you know uh, yeah, you tell everyone that it's going to be all inclusive, and nobody's going to sit and analyze these budget documents because these are really, if you see a typical budget document, uh, it's a very complex thing. It has a lot of numbers inside it. There are a lot of ways that you need to navigate. You need to be well versed with a lot of economic terms as well. So a commoner or a lay person is never going to look too deep into the budget. Okay, so yeah, such fanfare, such hysteria around budgets, I don't understand why is it. Because I would say hardly 15 to 20% of the population would you would know what to how to make sense of the budget. Yep. Next up is there is this allegation in the so Foxconn Apple, the Foxconn Apple plant in the state of Tamil Nadu. So there have been allegations in the media reports that at the Foxconn Apple iPhone plant in the state of Tamil Nadu, women are not being hired for, uh, you know, yep. So, Ministry of Labor and Employment seeks a detailed report from the Labor Department of Tamil Nadu government after media reports claimed that married women are not being allowed to work at Foxconn India Apple iPhone plant. Office of the Regional Chief Labor Commissioner has also been directed to furnish the factual report on the matter to the ministry. Okay, okay. So there is this allegation. It's not yet proved, but there are these allegations based on some media reports that are doing rounds on social media that married women are not being allowed to work at Foxconn Apple plant in Tamil Nadu. So the Union Labor Ministry has pulled up the state labor ministry or the state labor department of Tamil Nadu and asked for a detailed report as to, is this really true? So we'll see in the upcoming days. Does this social media report does it hold any water or not? Okay. Next up is NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Okay, decides to appoint. Wait, hang on. Where did it go? Oh, yes, here it is. So, North Atlantic Council decides to appoint outgoing Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, or Rutte, as the next Secretary General of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So, currently it's, I guess, Jens Stoltenberg. He is occupying the highest civilian position inside the NATO. For those of you who don't know, NATO is a military alliance of the West, and when I say West, I mean the United States and the Western European countries. Yeah, so their common adversary is supposedly Russia, or rather the socialist ideology of Russia. So they have selected their upcoming Secretary General. So yeah, that is the highest civilian post, because since it's a military alliance, it's there aren't exactly civilian posts inside NATO, but Secretary General is the top civilian post. So the person who is going to take up this position, he's going to take up this position on 1st of October, is the ex Prime Minister of Netherlands, Mark Rutte. Okay, let's see. Can he turn around the fortunes of NATO that is at the center of the Russia Ukraine conflict? By the way, do you think there would have been so much animosity between, or the relationship between Ukraine and Russia would be so acrimonious if there weren't an entity called NATO on the face of Earth? So, if you take out this military alliance from the equation, would Russia and Ukraine still be fighting? That is the question that you should ask yourself. Okay. If you'd like to know more about this military organization, there is a post on our Instagram page by the same name, esports and information. We have compiled a few of the factual data regarding this military alliance. You can look it up, and it'll make sense. A lot of things will start making sense. Usually, what happens is information is just like a puzzle. Okay, if as a child, if you have solved a lot of jigsaw puzzles, you'll see that even though you might have solved the 80% of the puzzle, but it is only the few pieces of the puzzle. When you put it inside, then the entirety of the puzzle becomes clear to you, and it starts making sense to you. So that's how it is with information as well. You might gather a lot of information, but it's only few crucial data points that you need to put in to make sense of that whole compilation of information. Yes, so refer to our Instagram if you wish. Check out our reading content over there. There are a few reels as well, and there are also a few reels related to esports. Do check it out. Next up is a team of CBI reached OSS school in Hazaribagh, Jharkhand to investigate NEET paper leak case. Yes, so the probe into the paper leak case of the National Medical Entrance Exam has reached the state of Jharkhand. So the arrests began from the state of Bihar, then it reached the Latur district of Maharashtra, then it reached Godhra district of Gujarat, and now we are at Hazaribagh, Jharkhand. So you can see that the arrests are being, undertaken from multiple places, and these states are well spread out. It's not like they are concentrated at one place. Okay, so the CBI officers, they interrogated Ahsanul Haq, the principal of the school, about various aspects related to the paper leak. And there is one very important detail that CBI has put out in the public domain is the principal told CBI that standard operating procedure was not followed in transportation of the leaked question paper. Okay, so principal of the school, OSS school in Hazaribagh, Jharkhand, has conceded that the procedure, the standard operating procedure for transportation of the leaked paper was not followed. Obviously, if he's saying it, you can see the extent to which the penetration of this conspiracy is. Like I said, and I know my stand has been very constant since the beginning of this conspiracy, that people at the highest levels, somebody from the highest level is definitely involved in this conspiracy, because this would not have been possible without help of somebody at the top. Because if you see transport, there was no standard operating procedure followed in transportation. So clearly, there is somebody from the inside that facilitated this paper leak. I guess the government will not put this out in the public domain because they wouldn't want, they wouldn't want a loss of face in the public, and hence, somebody would be identified as a scapegoat, and that person will be given punishment. And the real perpetrators, let's hope they don't escape with a slap on their wrist. They pay, sufficiently for the misdeeds that they have done. But let's not get into wishful thinking. That's not how the world functions. Next up is External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar discusses India's deep concern at the impact of continuing violence and instability in Myanmar on its border with Bharat. Okay, okay. So Myanmar is another geographical neighbor of Bharat that we have, that was culturally part of Bharat, obviously, because it is a majority Buddhist country, and uh, Buddhist as a faith, Buddhist as a line of faith, has its origin in Bharat, obviously. So yes, there is obviously some cultural and political proximity that Myanmar has with Bharat. So there has been this increasing violence over there because, yeah. So I guess it is the military. The military is ruling over Myanmar right now, and uh, the External Affairs says Bharat is open to engaging all stakeholders in addressing this situation. I would really hope to see, we as a nation, Bharat as a nation, stepping up to the responsibility of ensuring that South Asia is indeed a safer place to live, because there are matters in the South Asian subcontinent that only we can solve. Okay, be it, proliferation of terrorism in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, be it the treatment of minorities in the Islamic Republic of Bangladesh and Pakistan, both, be it the unrest in Myanmar as well. There has to be some, I would say, deep commitment from our side. And when I say deep commitment, I don't mean simply just sending them aids, sending them vaccines, medicines when they need it. I mean actual policy decisions with respect to these countries. Because if you see, there is a considerable population of mine, not considerable right now. Obviously, when there was transfer of power in 1947, there was considerable pagan population in these monotheistic countries of Bangladesh and Pakistan, because they have a state religion. Okay, so now the numbers have dwindled. We have discussed this time and again in many of our live streams. So I would say it's a but I guess we lack political will. We have been led to believe that we are this benevolent nation that do not, interfere in political affairs of other countries. I would not call this interfering into political affairs of other countries. I would call this as, a preemptive action, because we have clearly seen that these two countries, they would not take active measures to ensure that their minorities are treated fairly. Okay, let me give you just one example for this. Okay, we as a state, we as a nation of Bharat, we finance Hajj pilgrimage every year. Okay, we do that. All right, although there is an argument to be made that should we really do that. Okay, the taxpayer money should it be, used for such purposes or not. All that argument is to be made. Obviously, we will discuss that in further videos. But the point that I'm trying to stress over here is, do the Islamic Republic of Bangladesh and Pakistan, okay, do they facilitate Amarnath Yatra or Chardham Yatra, okay, for their minorities, for the pagan citizens of these two countries? Okay, you have a state religion. Okay, and the entire world knows, although the United Nations and the West turns blind eye, because according to their Judeo-Christian principles and philosophies, pagans don't qualify as humans, so their human rights don't matter. Okay, but that is besides the point. Okay, I have made it abundantly clear that United Nations is no longer, it's obsolete. United Nations is obsolete. Okay, so I would really want to see these countries paying for the Chardham and Amarnath Yatra for, minorities of theirs. Okay, let's see if they really do this. So far, they have not. Okay, next up, what do we have? External Affairs Minister. Yeah, we discussed this. Kenya. Okay, we discussed in one of our previous live streams that the Kenyan situation is not exactly good. People in Kenya, they are protesting against, some tax hikes, and it has not been very conducive. So we'll definitely discuss this in the upcoming few minutes. Right now, just let me quickly cover the national news. Jammu and Kashmir, a three-tier security system has been put in place in and around Yatri Niwas and other base camps in Jammu for Amarnath Yatra 2024. You know, Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, secularism. We still have to provide a three-layered security for pagan pilgrims of Bharat. You know? So how do you reconcile this argument with the ideas of secularism, Bhaichara, Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb? Okay. I'm just simply raising these questions because in the upcoming future, people will have to look for answers to these questions. You cannot keep silent. These questions need to be answered. Next up, yes, a central investigation team has also reached Beed. Beed is a place in Maharashtra. So let's see what comes out of this probe. Uh, Next piece of information is from the state of Sikkim, the Himalayan state of Sikkim, Department of Science and Technology. They are conducting a scientific expedition in the Rathong Glacier in the state of Sikkim. The aim is to study glacier dynamics and the impacts of climate change on the Himalayas. Let's see. This is a study being undertaken. I would say yes. Such studies should be taken on regular basis. So let's see. Next up, yes, and yesterday and the day before, we have seen that many of the parliamentarians they took an oath, and an oath of secrecy towards the lower house, that is Lok Sabha. And there were a few members who raised slogans of Jai Palestine. Interesting. What bearing does Palestine have on the state of Bharat? I don't really realize it. Okay, but yes, and there were protests. People from the opposition party, people from the Alliance of Indy that are now sitting in on the opposition benches of the parliament. They walked inside the parliamentary house having copies of constitution. I have always this I've been very open about criticizing people who venerate constitution beyond a point. Okay, constitution in effect it is just a document. All right. And just like everything else, just like everything else, it needs updation with changing times. Okay, so let's just keep it in proportion. Do not venerate constitution beyond a point. All right, nobody is talking about here to change the basic structure of the constitution. No, we are not talking about that. All we are saying is, okay, all we are saying is do not venerate a piece of paper or a book beyond a certain point. Okay. So yes, the ruling party criticizes Congress. Genuine respect, not symbolic gestures, needed for constitution. Yes, so this is an attack towards Congress about their imposition of emergency during the tenure of Indira Gandhi as the prime minister. And yep, yeah, we can sit and discuss whether the imposition of emergency was it justified, was it not justified, but um, there is an overall consensus all across the political spectrum in our country that there were actions taken during emergency that were not actually fit, for a democracy like Bharat. So yeah. Next up is the Chief Minister of Haryana, Nayab Singh, distributes plots under Mukhyamantri Shahri Awas Yojana. All right, yes, the Chief Minister of the state of Haryana has distributed 30 by 30 square yard plots to the beneficiaries of Mukhyamantri Shahri Awas Yojana. All right, so they're gifting plots so the people could build solid houses for themselves, so they have some sort of a head start to their life. What we see around us is majority of the people, they struggle to make their ends meet because they do not have a fixed place to stay. Okay, now there's this argument that is usually put forward, by quoting Elon Musk and many of the rich people, that it is always good to stay at a rented place. You do not need your own place. But yeah, keep in mind, those are billionaire people. You are a commoner or a lay person. You need a house for yourself. You need a place where you can go and feel safe. And that is what the chief minister of Haryana is trying to do. He's gifting 30 by 30 square yard plots to underprivileged people, to give them a head start in their life. Okay. So in his address during the ceremony, the chief minister discussed the various policies of the state government. The chief minister said that every person has a dream. He should have a house, even if it is small, but his own. It is a pleasure that today the dream of all those brothers and sisters is being fulfilled. That is what the chief minister of the state of Haryana has said. Haryana. It's a funny name, don't you think? It's nice to say it, Haryana. Okay. Jai Hind, Jai Haryana. Jat Balwan, Jai Bhagwan. That is actually the war cry of the Jat regiment. Okay, that's a war cry that they say, that they chant before walking onto the battlefield. Jat Balwan, Jai Bhagwan. Next up is bumper sale of Khadi yoga clothes and mats on International Yoga Day. Yes, Khadi is somewhat very close to the central government, I would say, because they are putting this out in the public domain that there was a bumper sale of Khadi yoga clothes and mats on International Yoga Day. All right. Here, they put out the data. Uh, International Yoga Day witnessed a bumper sale of Khadi yoga clothes and mats. Khadi, excuse me. Khadi and Village Industries Commission supplied Khadi yoga clothes and mats worth 8.67 crore rupees to several government departments through 55 Khadi outlets across the country. I mean, yeah. All right, let's talk about Kenya. Okay, the government in Kenya, they thought that they could raise taxes on certain items to meet a certain budget deficit that they have. The government or the state of Kenya is reeling from the acute lack of liquidity. They do not have liquidity to fund capital building. They do not have enough liquidity to invest money for their people, to build up assets for their people, and hence they are raising taxes to raise more liquidity, so hence they can do more good for the people. At least this is what they have been putting out in the public domain. But this decision to raise taxes did not go down well with the local Kenyans. They took to the streets. There were, fervent and vehement protests in the streets of Kenya. There are five people, no, at least 23 have been killed nationwide in these protests. Some part of parliament, okay, some part of parliament was also set on fire. Okay, so clearly there is some mistrust amongst the commoners in Kenya in the dispensation that is in the office. Okay. Okay, the president of Kenya is William Ruto. He, decided to raise the taxes. Then there were protests, there were mass rallies. Some part of parliament was also set on fire. 23 people died. Now he has promised that he will make certain changes. He will not go ahead with the planned tax hikes. He will indulge in negotiations with the concerned and relevant stakeholders. So he has taken back taken back the proposals of raising taxes, but still there is some degree of mistrust, even after assurance from the leader that he will, you know, not go ahead with increasing the taxes. So let's see. There are upcoming grim days. Okay. So now you might wonder what exactly is wrong with the finance bill that the Kenyan president was bringing up. So let's see what is wrong with the bill. Um, So just like us, just like in any democracy, there is a finance bill that is presented as at the beginning of the year to clearly outline the financial fiscal policy of the government. So in that they state that these are the resources of money. This is how they will generate those resources, and this is where they will use use the resources that they have raised. Okay. So in that finance bill, okay, the government of Kenya, they put across this idea that they were willing to raise somewhere close to $3 billion in additional taxes to reduce budget deficit and state borrowing. Okay, there is a wide budget deficit in Kenya. They have borrowed a lot of money, so the public debt of Kenya stands at 68% of GDP. Okay, so somewhere close to 70% of what they produce in an entire year goes as debt payments. Okay, now the international bodies such as World Bank and IMF, International Monetary Fund, they have a threshold of 55% of you know they have this rule. Okay, World Bank and IMF, so if they are going to help any of the national governments or any of the countries, help them to come out of their deficits, so the only condition is their debt to GDP ratio should not be more than 55%. It is 68% for Kenya. So the Kenyan leader, I guess, he was trying to bring back the budget deficit that they have that stands at 68%. He wanted to bring it back to 55% so they can, raise more loans from World Bank and IMF. Okay, okay. Here it says grappling with acute liquidity challenges amid uncertainty over its ability to access capital from financial markets. Kenya has turned to IMF, which has urged the government to meet revenue targets to access more fundings. Okay, so yeah, so in order for them to borrow more money from IMF, the leader of Kenya decided to raise taxes. But when this proposal was put inside the parliament, the people protested, and now he has gone back. Let's see what comes out of this. So, what were the proposed tax measures that did not go down well with people? The proposed measures that have triggered protests include new levies on basic commodities like bread, vegetable oil, and sugar, and a new motor vehicle circulation tax. Okay, so they were going to raise taxes on bread, um, a very common requirement for everyday food, vegetable oil and sugar as well, and the new motor vehicle circulation tax. Okay, so somewhere close to, I would say, 2.5% of the value of the motor vehicle that you drive, you'll have to pay as a tax, as a circulation tax. And this has not gone down well. There was also another proposed tax called eco levy, environmental tax on sanitary towels and diapers. So this did not go down well with the people of Kenya. The government has said that the tax measures are necessary to fund development programs and cut public debt. They're trying to cut the public debt, but people protested. And let's see what comes out of this argument. If they really want to borrow more money from IMF and World Bank, they really need to, cut down on their budget deficit. So after people protesting, let's see what else do they come up with. Hmm. ICC convicts Mali Islamist for Timbuktu atrocities. Okay, there is a place called Timbuktu in Africa. If you look at the canopy of Africa, you will see that there are multiple countries over there that are dealing with the, rise of fundamentalist Islam. Al Qaeda, majority of the, splinter Islamic groups in the northern part of Africa, they have been inspired by the Al Qaeda ideology. And another such group is an Ansar Deen Islamist group, okay, which took the city on the fringe of Sahara Desert in 2012 and tried to impose Sharia Islamic law. Okay, so the International Criminal Court at The Hague, they have convicted a person named Al Hassan Ag Abdul Aziz. Okay, he has been, local inhabitants testified that he was considered a key player within the Islamic police force, which could issue orders and public officers would carry them out. Okay, okay. Al Hassan has been found guilty by majority decision of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including torture, cruel treatment, and outrages upon personal dignity for the public flogging of 13 members of the population of Timbuktu. All right, like I said, there are many countries, Sudan, Ethiopia, that are dealing with the rise of, Islamic extremism. Yep, yep. The prosecutors had charged Al Hassan with a number of gender based crimes, saying that the Islamic police terrorized women of Timbuktu who were subjected to rape, forced marriages, and sexual slavery. While judges said rape and forced marriages did take place in Timbuktu, they find Al Hassan bore no responsibilities for such crimes. Okay, the judges have, they have put in a caveat in their conviction that although these things are very much prevalent over there, Al Hassan seems to be not involved. So they've reserved the sentence hearing. The Al Qaeda linked fighters of Ansar Deen also used pickaxes, shovels, and hammers to shatter earthen tombs and centuries old shrines, reflecting the Sufi version of Islam in what is known as the city of the Triple Three Saints. All right, nothing much to talk here. All of you all know what that means. Okay, the country of Bolivia. Okay, Bolivia is a country in the southern American continent. Okay, if you are very much fond of Bond movies, you must have seen multiple of Bond movies were shot in Bolivia. Yep. So there was a coup. There was a military coup in Bolivia, although it failed. Okay. The military general Juan Jose Zuninga, he tried to storm the parliament, with tanks and everything else, but he was held back. He was stripped of his rank. A new general has been put in its place, and for the time being, democracy has been restored in Bolivia. Okay. But that is not what is the point over here. The point is there is some sort of dissatisfaction amongst the armed forces in Bolivia. Okay. If someone has tried this, okay, it could be either due to two reasons. Either the outgoing general Zuninga was too confident about his abilities to pull off a military coup, or secondly, there is a genuine distrust among the military ranks regarding the political leadership of Bolivia. It could be either of the two. We'll see in the upcoming days. It's not like at some evening the general decided to take over the parliamentary functions of the country. So yeah, there was a failed coup attempt in Bolivia. The Bolivian people are summoned today. We need the Bolivian people to organize and mobilize against the coup d'etat in the favor of democracy. Okay, okay. So yeah, it's nothing happens out of the blue. There are a series of there are chain of actions, chain of reasons that usually result in manifestations. So let's see. We'll find out in the upcoming days what are the actual reasons about this. The United States said it was closely monitoring the situation and urged calm and restraint. South America is the backyard that United States has. So any disruption, any situations that are not peaceful, obviously America is concerned about, and I would say it's doing right. This is something that we as a country, Bharat, should be watchful about, how exactly is America dealing with unrests in its neighborhood. Although they both the geographical neighbors that United States has, Mexico and Canada, both of them are non-nuclear countries, and both of our adversarial geographical neighbors that will have, China and Pakistan, okay, both of them are nuclear armed. So I wouldn't say that the situation is exactly similar, but if you look at it in principle, your policy towards your neighborhood should be one of hard line. Obviously, there has to be some acts of benevolence, helping them in times of their need. That is understood. But the prime moving force of your neighborhood first policy should be your own self interests and the overall stability in the whole continent. That is all that I'm saying. Next up is United Nations has come out with this warning, and I really think it is a very absurd warning to put it out. So get this: United Nations warns of overdose deaths for Afghan opium production plummets. Yeah. So get this. So now opium production in Afghanistan has been banned. Okay. So that has led to a decline in opium export to the countries of Europe and United States. And those opiums, or the opiates that were being earlier received from Afghanistan, now they are getting replaced by synthetic opioids. Okay. And these synthetic opioids are used to manufacture drugs, and these drugs in turn are being consumed by the people of United States. And the drugs that have been made from the synthetic opioids have far reaching, you know health, they have more health damages. Like people who consume drugs that have been produced from synthetic opioids, that has more health risks than the ones that have been manufactured by the naturally grown opioids. So United Nations has put in a warning, okay, that do not consume drugs synthesized from synthetic opioids. You know, consumption of drugs should be banned in the first place. We should not urge people to not consume synthetic drugs, as if you're saying that consuming natural drugs is okay. Yep. So this is what they have said. So they published a report, World Drug Report. In it, it says that heroin, the cultivation of opium from which heroin is made fell by 95% in Afghanistan last year, after the Taliban banned production of narcotics in 2022. Although opium production in Myanmar has increased by 36% last year, it fell this. Yep, yep. The result of a prolonged shortage of Afghan opiates could have multiple consequences in Afghanistan and in countries of transit and destination of Afghan opiates. Yep, 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 yep. Demand for opiate treatment services, including methadone, buprenorphine, and slow release morphine treatment, may rise. Heroin users may switch to other opioids. It's obviously United Nations is not promoting usage of drugs, but it is just stating it out in the open that now that naturally grown opioids are not possible, are not being received on a consistent basis. There are synthetic options available, and people who use drugs, they may switch to alternative opioids such as fentanyl is a big menace in the United States. You can just simply look it up on the internet. What is fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, a synthetic drug that has replaced heroin among the drug users in the United States and European countries as well, and it has led to many deaths. And yep, it is a major economy. It is a major black economy on the streets of United States. Fentanyl that is being brought into the United States through Mexican borders. And yep, let's see what comes out of this. Drug usage is a problem all across the world, even in some of the states that we have. In the state of Punjab, you see There are multiple videos doing circles online about how people, are standing in the middle of the street. They're not able to walk. They're not able to do anything. And yep. So drug overuse is a problem all across the world. Next up is Germany, China signed declaration on data sharing. This is some agreement that China and Germany have signed, some agreement on data sharing. Not interesting. All right. So you might be wondering, you might be under the impression that tit for tat is something that only small children, kids do because they are not mature enough. Okay. But even at the international levels, you'll see that even, sovereign states, indulge in this to and fro actions such as tit for tat. So get this. Okay. A Russian reporter was expelled from Vienna. So in return, Russia expelled some one of their reporters from Moscow. Yep. Here, the headline reads: Russia said on Wednesday that it had ordered the Moscow correspondent for Austria state broadcaster ORF to leave the country after Vienna revoked the accreditation of TASS. So it's a Russian media house after Vienna revoked the accreditation of TASS's chief correspondent in Austria. Yep. So it was a tit for tat measure. Ukraine starts EU membership talks in the midst of war. Okay, clearly European Union is looking for, new member states. Like I said, I have covered this in many of my previous live streams, that Europe as a geography, Europe as a continent, it has been played out. Okay. Majority of the European countries have decided their fate. Okay, decided their which camp are they supporting. Are they supporting the Western camp? Okay. Western camp, when I say Western camp, I mean European countries and United States, or they are supporting Russia, or they are standing in the Russian camp. Okay. So the entire majority of the European countries have made their decision, but there are some countries that are not so since still they are not NATO members, or still they are not included in European Union. So their decision could sway. Okay, be it Belarus, be it Ukraine, and that is the whole point. We have an entire conflict going on the border areas of Russia, Ukraine, because of the aspirations of NATO to include Ukraine as its member, aspirations of European Union to include Ukraine as its member. But I don't think Russia would have a problem with Ukraine being included in the European Union. Their problems are exclusively limited to, the NATO membership of Ukraine. So let's see what comes out of it. So yes, negotiations between Ukraine and European Union have started. Amidst an ongoing war. Let's see what comes out of it. All right, that's all for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next video.